All right, so here to help us figure out who knew what and when is Minnesota-based journalist who's been covering the fraud since, I believe, 2018, if I have that correctly, Liz, but it's Liz Collin. And I know that she's also spoken to a lot of people who've been hard to reach. We've asked for a lot of people out of Minnesota. You managed to accomplish getting in contact with these prosecutors. Let's talk about exactly what's going on. Frey, Omar, Ellison, how deep does this go into politics?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, there is an overlap with plenty of Democrats in power in Minnesota with all of this. It was the spring of 2021 when the raids involved with the $250 million fraud scheme tied to Feeding Our Future was first exposed. Even before that, though, you're right. There was a suspected $100 million fraud tied to overbilling at dozens of Somali-owned daycare sites in Minnesota. That was making news back then. So the question of who knew what and when, you laid that out. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, she held several events at the restaurant named in the Feeding Our Future fraud, including hosting her congressional win in 2018 at that very restaurant. So she knew one of the owners very well. Salim Saeed is his name, who has since been convicted. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey's senior policy aide, Abdi Nur Salah, also entered a guilty plea. He was tied to the case. Campaign donations from some of the defendants in Feeding Our Future eventually returned, as you mentioned, to Jacob Frey, Attorney General Keith Ellison, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. But you're right, I sat down with the lead prosecutor in the case, Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson, talked to him months ago, and I asked him, will we see any of these political leaders indicted? At the time, he said he could not comment on future indictments, but even back then, the feds made it very clear that it seemed that these cases were still wide open. Now we're hearing about multiple social programs in Minnesota, and these investigations seem to be wide open at this case, and I think this federal spotlight certainly is helping at this moment, Will.
Okay, let's explore really quickly together, Liz, the questions of could and did. What I mean by that is we have audio of Keith Ellison. As you know, Keith Ellison having a conversation with many of the people involved in this program wherein he seems to be suggesting that he'll get into any type of investigators off their back. Like if there's any holdup in some of the money going to their programs that were fraudulent, he'll grease the wheels, he'll figure out how to keep it going. They were complaining that people were starting to step in and stop the flow of funds. And Ellison seemed to be saying, well, where? How? I'll figure it out. So the question is could and did. Could this have been to this scale without all of these politicians knowing about it? And did they know about it?
It seems at this point, Will, hard to believe that someone did not know about this. You have a state senator, Omar Fateh, celebrating the fact that the money kept flowing. You have a city council member in Minneapolis, also part of that celebration that was actually held. It's on video. There are recordings of that as well. And our reporting dates back years at this point, going over that celebration that took place. Unless none of these people, which I find it very hard to believe, are not talking to each other at all. And now you also have these whistleblowers that have come forward recently saying that they went to Governor Tim Walz 7 years ago when he first came into office, and they wanted to bring these red flags to his attention, and they say that they were met with silence. So we're seeing that now on Medicaid funding perhaps being cut if Walz doesn't take this more seriously, according to that letter that was sent from the federal government on Friday. But we have multi-billions of dollars in fraud in Minnesota. And again, this has been ongoing for years. So just on a personal level, I've been a reporter for 20 plus years now. At this point, I find it really hard to believe that someone at the top did not know something.
Well, I have no doubt, Liz, that you'll be the first to know if that prosecutor